T-MAXX don't care about sand. Oh yeah. 2-speed baby on the sand. Nitro World Order.
Nitro World Order.
What's up, Nitro Gang? This right here is my Traxxas T-MAXX. As you can see, it has a bunch of damage going on. It's missing a wheel. The suspension parts are all bouncy around over here. I don't even use words like bouncy, but that's what they are. This thing got driven over while hitting second gear from the back. That's right, from the back. It got driven over by a damn X-MAXX. So the other day, it was a couple videos ago. I'm going to put a clip here in a little bit and you guys will understand exactly what happened. But let me just explain. An X-MAXX showed up to my local RC track. Of course, I was happy yelling 2-speed baby. But, the T-MAXX Tony and me, that's this guy right over here. He's on vacation. He won't be making an appearance in this video. He said to the X-MAXX, hey man, just drive around with me. I'm going to yell a little bit of 2-speed. You're going to yell a little bit of low voltage lipo cutoff. You know how it goes. Sometimes maybe a stripped rear diff. Whatever you want to yell, you could yell it. But I'm going to be yelling 2-speed baby for the Nitro Gang. And of course, lo and behold, from the back, the X-MAXX drives over me. Check out this clip. T-MAXX is alive! That was a massive impact. The engine is still running, but it looks like we got some damage. That was a huge impact. We got ourselves a little bit of damage. But I think when you go and battle the X-MAXX, it's not the best thing. Man, I got myself a lot of damage right here. The shock shafts are all out. It looks like the drive shaft is fine. Basically just the shock rod ends. Seems like, yeah, they popped off over here. When I first got driven over, I was a little bit angry. There was a good amount of damage, but I was mostly worried about, stripping a diff. I don't want to strip diffs. A lot of these suspension components, they're fairly cheap and easier to replace. There's a lot of parts for the T-MAXX floating around. Luckily, it looks like the drivetrain itself is okay, and I am mostly just, have broken A-arms over here. There probably is more. I have not fully investigated. I did make a parts order, and the parts order is right here in the bag. This is from Jenny's RC. I'll show you guys exactly what it is in a little bit. But basically, it's a parts, I would call them kind of like a parts stripper for a lot of brand new RCs. And they just buy them, they take the parts, they're not going to be bagged in like the original bags that normally you would get. But they are substantially cheaper. I've purchased a lot of stuff on that Jenny's RC website. And I have a couple goodies in that bag. We'll take a look at it in a little bit. Oh, by the way, is everybody wondering what this is over here? Well, this is a new delivery for, I don't want to say it, but this is for the Electro Gang out there. Now, it's still an HPI. This is a relatively kind of unknown model. This is called the Dash. Some of you guys out there that have been in the hobby for a long time, you might know what it is. It is, I would say, the worst HPI ever made. This right here was the beginning of the HPI toy grade scene. They thought they were going to make a killing, but guess what? They were unpopular. The only good thing about this thing is the very good looking Porsche body and the HPI X pattern wheels. The train pretty much stops there. The rest of it is a disaster. I just recently bought this on eBay. It is in relatively good condition. Comes with this original halfway destroyed box. But guys, this thing is probably over 20 years old. These initially came out in the year 2000. I don't care. It's an HPI. I'm still gonna love it, and I might even do a nice brushless conversion on this in the future. Just by looking at it, it does not look good. but it seems like it's mostly only the suspension arms that are busted. So it looks like when the X-MAXX rear-ended me, you know, drove right over this 10 scale from the back without even asking it out on a date first. That's how the electrics treat the Nitro gang over here. They do whatever they want to you from the back without even asking you out on a date first.
Mom, everyone knows that everything but Apple is stupid. Here, look at this one. Toshiba Handybook. Toshiba Handybook? Why don't you go across the street and buy some condoms? Because we should at least be safe if you're gonna f me, Mom. Eric, you might as well go buy some cigarettes too, because I like to have a smoke after I get good and f you right here in the bed bath. No! Well, then could we at least pull up here and get some dinner? Because I like to be wined and dined after I've been...
So it looks like, you know, I was already putting a lot of pressure on the rear suspension because I was accelerating. And then, you know, this 20-pound plus X-MAXX comes from the back, drives over me. What do you expect? You know, the suspension squat eventually just gave out. So I'm lucky that nothing else broke. The body's in okay condition. The shock towers did not break. The body post did not break. It looks like, I would say honestly, this is the best point of failure. You kind of want your suspension arms to break. I don't want to call this like the weakest link, so to say, but guys, it is in your best interest when you break stuff that you don't break the diff and you break like easily replaceable parts like the suspension components here. It's a hot day. I'm sweating bullets over here, but it doesn't matter. The T-MAXX, it has to get fixed. Everything was very, very cheap. Honestly, a lot of this stuff I really didn't need, but the deal was so good that I just had to buy it. So the first item here, we have the Traxxas fuel bottle. Personally, you could always use a spare fuel bottle. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Take a guess how much this was. Well, I'm looking at my spreadsheet here, and this was only $1.49. Guys, $1.49 for a Traxxas branded fuel bottle. Next part, we have an entire clutch setup for any Traxxas 3.3. That's like a huge range of vehicles, T-MAXX, Revo, you know, even the Jado if you needed a clutch, it really doesn't matter. This is the entire clutch setup. We have the flywheel, we have the clutch itself here, which on its own sells for about 10 bucks. We have the bearings, which sometimes bearings get destroyed, so you wind up, you know, spending extra money on bearings and some of the extra parts. This was under $10, guys. This whole thing was under $10. So, you know, you could always use parts like this. Absolutely nothing wrong with making these kind of purchases. This is one of the most common failure items on any Nitro, a one-way bearing. A lot of times, you find yourself cursing at the one-way bearing, but in my case, I figured why not order another one, because you can never have enough one-way bearings, especially in a Traxxas vehicle. Generally, after about 5 to 10 years, depending on how you run them, the one-way bearing will begin to fail. I paid only $6.79 for this. You just cannot get a deal like this. This is less than half price of a brand new one. I paid only $9.47 for all 8. This includes the lower and the upper suspension arms. I referenced the Traxxas website to see how much money I saved, and if I were to buy all 8 of the Traxxas upper and lower suspension arms, they are each $7.50, so you would need 4 sets. So $7.50 times 4, what do you get? $30. Guys, I paid 33%, you know, for parts that are brand new for a Traxxas compared to the stock list price. And if you ask me, the stock list price, $7.50 for suspension parts, even though you only get 2, right? It's not bad. What I'm saying is, man, everyone likes to make fun of the Traxxas brand. It sucks, it's this, it's that. The reality is, they make Nitros, they're not discontinuing them. There's easily available parts you could find almost anywhere, and I just don't see the downside. I don't see it. Some people say, hey man, they have no big block. That's not even an argument. That's like saying Mars is terrible because Mars has no atmosphere. You know, one of those statements is true. Yes, Mars does not have an atmosphere like Earth. Does that make it terrible? No, because it's a cold rock, basically, well, a planet, right? In space. It has no good or bad feeling. It has no good or bad connotation. Mars is Mars. The fact that it has no atmosphere is irrelevant. Well, of course, for sustaining human life, it's fairly relevant. What can I say? I've been following the plans of Elon Musk and his plan to colonize space with a lot of people mainly going to Mars. Do I think that's a great idea? Not particularly, because the human body, in fact, all of life as we know it, has evolved on this planet to fit the laws of, I guess you would call it, physics and science and our current environment to live here. Can a human live on Mars in such a low gravity? Probably not. Life has evolved to live on this planet, and that's all it's good at currently at this time. Can we survive in low Earth gravity for long periods of time? Yes, in low Earth gravity, yes. But what about Mars? Probably not. That's why the astronauts on the International Space Station exercise an average of 2 hours a day, just to maintain some of their muscle mass. Okay, time to shut up. Let's start disassembling the suspension on this, and then we'll take a look at exactly what is broken, and hopefully it's not worse than I expected, or else I'm going to be really pissed at that X-MAXX. We have our brand new suspension arms here ready to go, but first we need to know what exactly is broken. Clearly the lower suspension arm is busted. Now the shocks, I was worried that the shocks would be bad, but check this out, guys. The shock piston itself moves in and out normally. It doesn't feel like it's lost any shock oil. Obviously, I'm missing some of the, shock components, but that's no big deal. I have them on the side here, ready to go. I basically went out on the track after the collision, collected all of them, and we should be fine when it comes to that. So it looks like they just popped out from the bottom, from the rod ends here, right? So they're still on the lower suspension arm, no big deal. I'll just remove the screws and then we'll thread them back in. That's not a disaster. What I'm really worried about are the hinge pins. I could see all the way down over here. I'm gonna point to it with my finger right there. There should be a hinge pin sticking out here because there's one going all the way through the bottom there. It looks like it got sheared off, so that's not good news. The top one looks to be okay, but I'm not too worried. I got myself some spare parts for Traxxas that, I got this toolbox like a long time ago. Look at all those spare hinge pins I got. Not worried at all. On the other side, it looks to be the same damage. Now, the hinge pin that I was talking about earlier, you notice how it comes out here from the back of the suspension arm? That's the way it's supposed to look like. So it looks like the other one just sheared itself off. What I'm happy about are the drive shafts. Now, even though it may look like this part is separated from that, and they are, but these are two-piece designs. They're kind of like what you call slider shafts. So one slides within the other, and then that's what compensates, for suspension travel. That's how it works, guys. And honestly, a lot of people say, hey man, the Traxxas drive shafts are so bad. But in reality, they're talking about the old original T-MAXX Classic, the 2.5, the 3.3 model. They use what's known as Revo spec drive shafts, including the diffs. And these things, guys, they're tough. I mean, it withstood an impact from, a 20+ pound X-MAXX, not accounting for the weight of the lipos. On the left side, I've removed one of the shocks. And now all I have to do is just assemble the rod end onto the shock shaft, put the springs back on, and then this side will be fine. After, of course, I also do this other shock. I'm going to repeat the process for this side, but I'm also going to have to replace these suspension arms. But otherwise, the shock itself is not damaged. It just popped out here at the end. It should be absolutely no big deal. I'll put it back together and then stick it back on T-MAXX. The left side is completely fixed. Check this out. The shocks work as they should. Of course, when you're missing a wheel, it seems like the suspension is super smooth, but we didn't even lose any shock oil in these Traxxas shocks. Simply just screwed everything back and it's good as gold. A lot of people want to upgrade everything right away. But guys, this was a massive impact and all I had to do was just put stuff back. Like it's no big deal. And yet people love to make fun of the Traxxas brand. This wasn't even a disaster compared to what could have happened if you had aluminum parts. This would have been unrestorable. The threads would have been done if you had aluminum components. But this plastic, it's really nylon. Look how smooth it is. Just going to work on this other side, get the suspension arms back, figure out the hinge pin situation, and we'll go from there. I might not cover all of this in the actual how to do it, because what's the chance of you really coming in contact with an X-MAXX, them driving over you without taking you out to dinner first? It's probably close to zero, but you know what? It happened to the Nitro Gang, because wherever the Nitro Gang goes, people just want to show up and battle you. Well guys, I'm almost done. Just need to insert this top hinge pin. Everything should be good. So, I chose to go stock because the stock parts they're quite good. Let's take a look at the damage on the old parts. So some pretty basic points of failure here in the middle. You know, this other one came out. The hinge pin, as expected, it was completely sheared off. So this is the one that's broken. As you could tell, the new one, it has kind of a rounded edge here at the end. That's just to make sure that it's easier to slide in as you're assembling the whole system. So these hinge pins, you know, they're stock. They're just basic metal. You can get very good upgraded ones. You can get titanium ones. In fact, getting titanium hinge pins for a Traxxas product, well, that was like what people did years ago. But today, these metal parts, they're relatively okay. It's actually quite rare to break a hinge pin like this. Unless, of course, you come to battle on X-MAXX, well, then they're gonna take you out. Traxxas T-MAXX, it's honestly a pleasure to work on. And now I'm gonna put this all back together, and we'll start it up, test it out, make sure that it goes straight, and maybe I'll even yell 2-speed baby once or twice. I'm at a soccer field right now. It is time to test this thing out. Doesn't seem to be a lot of people here. So hopefully I can hit that 2-speed baby. The suspension is normal, it's smooth, no weird movements in terms of the shocks or any kind of steering geometry. All I had to do was just replace a couple suspension arms. The shock shafts didn't even get bent in that collision with the X-MAXX. You guys see this? Very easy to fix, no big deal. Diffs are great. Let's run her. Let's start her up. Two-speed, baby! Two-speed, baby! Two-speed, baby!
She say she wanna dance, but she don't know how to move. Her name is Jenny, ooh, bitch don't have no panties. I'm